Today, we're looking at Diamine's Kelly Green. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, share the results out here on YouTube for 3 people to watch. I don't know. Share the results with you. I actually don't know what the subscribers are. Diamine's Kelly Green is a green ink, and I was excited to test this one. Now, to make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples, I put the ink into a different pen for day, I then put it into a Noodler's Ahab with a modified flex nib to take my notes for this video. Before we get to the writing samples, let's look at the sciencey bits. Up first is the chromatography, and I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. And it made me worried because I see these highlighter colors again. It's like a very, very light lemon left along the bottom coming up, highlighter yellow, highlighter green with a dark green across the top, and I was hoping it would be the dark green that was going to be the savior of this ink. The one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water, and there's no difference, which means I don't think this ink is going to have any kind of resistance at all. Now, resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean from your pens. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, it did not handle it well. I would not use it in a highlighting situation as a note taker simply because so much became blurry that that's one word where it's the same word on every single one of these that even if I couldn't read it, I know what's there. But if I'm taking notes, I'm not sure I would be able to read some words, especially if they were a little less familiar to you. I wouldn't use it as a note taker. Water didn't do nearly as much as expected looking at the chromatography. It did remove some of the ink, but it left a lot of that green behind. Now, the pen flush did everything water did and then more. Now, then more, I'm looking at that streak across the top, which is where I must have given just a little bit of pressure as I was pulling the water or the pen flush off the page. It only had 30 seconds, but I start to see some of the dots of the Rhodia paper, and it is way lighter. It really makes me feel like pen flush is the most it would ever take to get this out of my pen. And bleach, as you would expect, removes it from the paper. It doesn't look like it was ever there, but I don't think bleach is going to be needed to get this out of your pen. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Diamine's Kelly Green has a viscosity of 2.5, making it perfectly average. To find my average dry times, I use the writing samples done with the extra fine and medium nib on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. For the inks I've tested, I found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Now, Diamine's Kelly Green has an average dry time of 17 seconds, making this a perfect average ink. Amazing. Now, let's look at the writing samples. I picked this ink up in sample form, and to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at Clairefontaine. We have no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade with the 1.1, but it has a great color, a really nice color. Extra fine and noticeably lighter tone. No feather, spread, halo, sheen. Great shading throughout all of this writing. Quick, starts dark, gets medium to light in the middle, starts getting darker again. The starts really light, gets really dark. Fox starts really light, gets really dark. Lazy goes from light to dark to light again. It's gorgeous stuff, and 11 seconds to dry. Now the medium gives us a little darker tone as its base tone. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, great shading throughout all of this ink. Dog starts really light, gets dark. Fox starts really light, gets dark. Brown starts light, gets dark, gets light, gets dark again. Gorgeous stuff. It's like It's not a full camouflage of shading going on here, but it is nice. 16 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both showed us some color variation, and we got a bunch of color variation. Because the base tone of this ink is so light, the smear test, the smear, you would not be able to recover it, not because of the paper, but because of the light tone of the ink. Tomoe River. The Tomoe River has no bleeding. It does have ghosting. It is Tomoe River. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. Extra fine, no feather, spread, halo, sheen. It does offer some spots of shading where it gets a little bit darker in spots. The H in the is a little bit darker. The K in quick is a little bit darker. The R in brown. The X in fox. It has spots of darker, not a lot. 18 seconds to dry. Medium. Noticeably darker tone. No feather, spread, halo, sheen. Some spots of shade. Fox starts lighter and gets darker. The brown, the bottom of the B and the top of the B are lighter than the B itself. The quick starts very dark, gets light at the end of the Q, dark into the U. O starts light and gets dark. So it does offer some shading, not tremendous amounts there, but there is a lot of it, and 24 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby of both showed us no color variation, although we did see some color variation. And you couldn't recover this smear test if you smeared while you were writing. It's lost. It's fine. Rhodia. Rhodia has no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. Now the extra fine has no feather, spread, halo, sheen. It does offer some shading. It doesn't offer stark shading, but it graduates into darker areas. So like quick, starts darker, graduates to lighter, graduates to darker again. Brown starts dark, graduates to light, gets dark again. Fox starts very light and gets dark. Over starts light. The V is much darker than the E, and the R is much darker than the E. Nice stuff. Great here. 13 seconds to dry. The medium, noticeably darker base tone. No feather, spread, halo, sheen. We do have some shading, not as much shading, with it being darker. Fox starts much lighter and then gets darker again. Brown has spots that are much lighter, like the bottom of the B and the top of the B is different than the loop. The W is lighter than the rest of the word brown. So we do get some nice shading throughout the medium. It took 17 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine and the medium showed us some color variation. We expected it. We did get it. It's just not as big as you might hope for with some greens. This is just a great shade of green. The smear test, it's a light ink, and because the base tone is very light, I don't think you could recover this. So what happens to the tone of this ink when we put it on a yellow Rhodia paper? Now the yellow Rhodia gave us no bleeding and no ghosting. We expect that. It is still Rhodia paper. The 1.1 is the same tone. Extra fine, same tone. Medium, same tone. But that's where some of the similarities end. The 1.1, no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and no shade at all. The extra fine, no feather, spread, halo, sheen. We lost the bits of shading that we used to have, and this sometimes happens when you're dealing with inks that shade well and you put these darker tone papers under them, like the yellow. I say it's darker, it's yellow, but it's still darker, and it eats up some of that shading. 13 seconds to dry. The medium, a noticeably darker tone. No feather, spread, halo, sheen. No shade with the medium. Again, that yellow paper ate up the shade. It made the lighter parts of it a little bit darker and the lighter parts of the ink a little bit lighter, and it made it meet, so the shading went away. 17 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine and the medium showed us color variation, but we don't get it in the actual writing. And the smear test, I still don't think you could recover it. Now, White Lines paper. White Lines paper had a lot of bleed spots all over it. The extra fine was not as bad as the medium. It doesn't do real well. The White Lines paper doesn't do well with very many inks at all. I'll probably be lucky to find, a handful through all of this, but I like the paper. I like it for note-taking, to where I can take a picture and easily post it as a PDF straight onto like my page or my web page for my students. So it's not great for this, but it's great for the purpose, and so I go ahead and test it. The 1.1, it has spread, it has feathering,
it doesn't look particularly nice here with the 1.1. It has no halo, no sheen, no shade. The extra fine has no feather and no spread, halo, sheen, or shade. It only took 2 seconds to dry. So this looks much nicer here. I think this is a great green on this paper. The gray really makes, this is great for note taking. To me, it makes it pop on the page as a special note of something. I use green to mark the notes for where they know this is stuff that is on the test. That's your money maker. Make it green. And that's just, I don't know. It's because I'm an idiot. So I tell them stuff like that. Medium. No spread. There is some feathering. It's very light feathering, and it's only where the ink is heaviest. Like on the K, there's a little bit of feathering. On the A and lazy, because it's all smushed together, it's a little heavier, there's a little bit of feathering. Not bad, though. No halo, sheen, or shade. 3 seconds to dry. The Scrubby showed us no shade or color variation on this ink. We didn't get any in the writing sample. And the smear test, you could recover this if you smeared while you were writing. So, Strathmore writing paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade, and the tone of this ink looks gorgeous here. That cream color background really does good things for this ink. The extra fine, no feather, spread, halo, sheen. It does offer a lot of shading, but the tone of the paper made some of the areas look much lighter than others. Like the beginning of the looks much lighter than the end of the, and it's almost too light to read. Almost. Quick starts light and gets dark. Brown, nice and dark all the way. Over starts light and gets dark, and the is very dark. So this is nice here. 5 seconds to dry. The medium, a noticeably darker tone with no feather, spread, halo, sheen. There is some shading. It's a very gradual shading. It's not real stark like we see with the extra fine, but we do have it. Quick gradually makes its way to a lighter shade, then gradually makes its way back dark again. Over, nice solid dark tone. The 9 starts really light, gets really dark. I like when there's a lot of variation in what we're seeing in the shading. I just wind up enjoying the ink then. I enjoy looking at it at that point. The extra fine and the medium Scrubby showed us a lot of color variation. We got a lot more in the medium Scrubby than we actually got in the writing. The extra fine, on camera we don't see it as much, but the Scrubby showed us more color variation than we actually did get in the writing. And the smear test, I believe, if you smeared while you were writing, you could recover this. And that's all that I have for the writing sample.
Instead of finding inks that look like Diamine's Kelly Green, I would prefer to find an ink that complements that color on the page. Now, with this being such a great green tone, I wanted a perfect orange. I chose Diamine's Pumpkin because they're both, this green and orange are nice and bright together, but it makes me feel like I'm looking at the flag a little bit. Before I give my opinion on this ink, I would ask, if you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe. Now, what do I think of Diamine's Kelly Green? I think the shading that this ink gives is absolutely amazing. This is a great green. I like Kelly Green, and I like Kelly Green ink. This one is awesome. Thanks for watching.